Hey guys, Ryan DeMent from Chasing Happiness podcast. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today on the podcast, we have another Ryan Penley, and Ryan's about progress over perfection. And he's going to talk about a little bit about his life, but his book. But I think we're going to be able to go down some different rabbit holes that we haven't been able to go down with some other guests. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's always good to do a little Ryan squared action. It was good.
That's cool. I know it's a little bit of a wait, so thank you for waiting. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So let's get started with a little bit about who you are.
Man, I'm a reformed scumbag, but it didn't start out that way. I was one of those guys that was all about the ego. It was like, I got this. I was always the I got this guy. And that started to unravel on me. I developed a bit of a drinking and drug problem. And then after I've got the work and made some progress, gained some traction in recovery, I decided to write a book. It's called Man Up, Sober Up. And now I'm just spreading the word about that and about my message here.
How long have you been sober?
So we're going to, let's see, 5 years. March 31st was 5 years. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's good.
Thank you very much.
And it sounds like life has gotten better for you. Before we started recording, you have a brand new newborn.
Yeah, I got a baby. So just when I'm thinking, oh man, the dust is settled. I've got a good grip on life. It's boom, here's a new life. And he doesn't give a damn about your plans. But it's been quite the adventure thus far. It's only 2 months in now. And so I'll say this. I think that putting people into two buckets, very safe. I think most people agree. Either you have children or you don't have children. This puts people in two different buckets of life. And I feel that now that I've crossed over, I'm like, okay. There's been quite a few revelations and understanding of peers and friends, family. Feel like I'm like, that what that was about. So yeah, it's been like I said, an adventure.
That's good. It, as I would say, keeps you honest. It's changing you and keeping you on your toes. Isn't that what life is all about? You don't want to stay in the same place.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. The recent, mission of my life and kind of helping people that have gained traction in sobriety or looking for traction in sobriety or in the trenches of recovery, whatever it might be. There's a lot of change. So I've grown so accustomed to change. It's invited. It's going through a process like recovery and all that. You have to become friends with it. I know I would say the default, most people, is to fight change or resist change. I think it's more of it's a natural state, the homeostasis, if you will, right? But when you go through a tough process like that, like I did, like a lot of people do, you've got to become friends with change or it's not going to happen. And so that's been definitely a mantra of my life these days.
So I like that. Become friends with change. I would like to dig into that because that is a struggle that every single one of us have with change. And then we get comfortable and what's the saying? Let's, sit on the couch and watch Netflix or binge watch when you could be doing something else, whatever. So can we go down that path a little bit and kind of talk about, becoming friends with change and some nuggets that you can share that we could get better with change? And then how do we implement those items?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so I think that I had mentioned before that it's more natural for us to resist it, to resist change. And like the phrase, the devil that I know is better than the one I don't know. So people almost fight for less than ideal circumstances because they're familiar with it. And so it's almost like the uncertainty is enough to just pump the brakes and keep anything from ever developing. But change is certain in life, like as a whole, like from a 30,000 foot like perspective, it is certain it's going to happen. And we're all in. We're going to die. That change will happen. So
Yeah.
I think remembering this is actually a tool that I borrow from the Stoics and I write about in my book, memento mori. It's a fantastic phrase that the Stoics used in their philosophy. And it's that to remember that you're going to die, remember your mortality. That's the direct translation. You remember your mortality. And a lot of times if we bump ourselves up against that reality that we're not going to be here, one day it's going to cease. That could put some fuel in on the fire of making some change, knowing, okay, this isn't so ideal, but it's also not so bad. But then if you follow those thoughts, say out 5 years into the future and say things still haven't changed, they're only going to become worse. And you're gonna realize, oh man, I could have done something 5 years ago, but it didn't. All right, now I'm just like rambling awesome phrases, but it's when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second
Yes.
best time to plant a tree? Today. So that phrase outlines exactly that. Okay, yeah, you didn't do a damn thing 5 years ago, but if you don't start changing now, it's not gonna look much more gruesome in another 5 years if you don't get to work. And so yeah, the follow-up part of your question was like, how do you implement it? This is something I contemplate a lot. I go down this, think about it quite a bit, is you've got to start, you have to embrace an ideal challenge because if it's too large, you get anxiety and you never do a damn thing. The looming task is too much for you, and then you never get off the ground. And the opposite, right? You go too small, even though I suggest you lean towards the smaller side of this scale in order to gain some momentum. But you go too small, you get bored, you're unenthused. And so then you lose interest. And so again, fall off the wagon of momentum and then you're in a tough spot. Embracing that ideal balance between ambitious goals, small goals, that's an excellent place to begin. But that's not all that is included in embracing ideal challenges. You want to include something that you're excited about because there's plenty of people in the school of thought like, oh, you've got to do hard things. There's truth in, no doubt.
Mhm.
You got to overcome some obstacles for anything to be worthwhile. A lot of important things, but you break a sweat in order to get. However, if you despise it, right? This is another spectrum. If you despise it, you are going to be less likely to stick to it. Say you're trying to lose weight and you start this meal prep and you're like weighing all this food and you're going through all these steps. You're like, oh, this is how you lose weight. It's one way to lose weight, but if you really hate it, like I do, can't do it. Like I cannot measure out my meals and cook for 1 day a week and all that. It's too much. I won't do it. That's a very tough part of it, even though it is a tool that works for some people. I can't stand it. So you've got to make sure that the excitement is behind the change that you're behind. The motivation has got to be there and it won't be there for long enough if you don't have some kind of intrinsic value from whatever you're pursuing. Again, going back, like how do you implement change? You've got to figure out if you have a desired goal, let's call it sobriety.
Okay.
Um, and you're up against this, it's a very difficult task for you. You've got to figure out ways that you get time that will aid you. For me personally, one of my embraced ideal challenges while I was moving along in sobriety and recovery is exercise.
Mhm.
But I was super fat, 265 pounds. I had a fractured arm. So I had every excuse in the book, like, oh, I got a broken arm. I can't do push-ups. I can't lift weights and all of these things. Every once in a while, somebody would say, like, you can run, can't you? And I would tell you, that's right. Oh, you got a point there. So what I had to find was something that I didn't absolutely despise, that I could start moving towards the goal of changing and then aiding in the recovery, right? So you've got to find something that will lend or add to your tool belt of tools. Mine was physical fitness. I happened to enjoy it, even though it was hard. So there's an important distinction there is that you can get excited about difficult things if you don't despise them. The
Yep.
excitement won't necessarily come about if you hate it. So you got to find something that will give you a little bit extra wind in your sail to get through the difficult times because you're excited about it or be challenged. There's all different motivators. So, right, you're trying to implement change. It's a hard change to make happen. So you've got to start figuring out some things that you might be excited about. So, for instance, mine was for physical exercise. It worked out for me in that respect. Let's say somebody else's is like a community, and so like they just really thrive on bonding with people, and meetings are what they're all about. I never really went to AA meetings. It didn't necessarily work out for me. I wasn't excited about it. I didn't necessarily despise it. It wasn't my thing. Some people like, man, that bond, that connection that they get from being in those rooms, it's invaluable, right? So really lean into it. And so there's another possibility or an option. Again, if you want to implement change, it's you've got to figure out what you don't despise to get through the hard part. And so like paying attention to what may get you excited is it's a clue. It's a clue into what you can pursue. It works out that way. And it also rhymes. So
I also like that. You have to really I've not heard that approach. You really can't despise something that you wanna do. Have you ever read a book, Atomic Habits, by any chance?
yeah,
By
James Clear, yeah.
Yeah, I've had to read it 3 times, 4 times, something for it to actually stick and be able to stack, and I relate that to what you're talking about is breaking down the goal into smaller steps, but first, making sure whatever that goal is, you don't hate it, you don't despise it, and I've never thought of it that way because there's some goals like you say exercise. I'm all about, okay, can I exercise, eat better? I'm not looking to do any type of meal prep or any of that, but I know I can eat better, sleep more, be moving. That always helps. It's taken a while, but back in the day, a younger age of me, I was healthy, fitness, whatever. I've gone from what was I, 220, 225, I'm down to 190, 195. I
Oh,
wanna get to 180, so we're there. We're getting
right,
it,
right,
but
right,
it's
right.
it's been 8 months. It's been 8
Right.
months of grinding it out every single day. Is there a despise in there that I hate getting up in the morning and running and taking, Moose out my dog out for a walk? Yeah, it sucks. But guess what?
Right.
It also helps my health. Blood pressure is down, cholesterol is down. All these things are in a good space. I think
Right.
those are more motivators for me than anything, but it's the consistency of stacking those habits that I got from that book, Atomic Habits, is what stuck. I started with some small things, going for a walk for 20 or 30 minutes, then started working my way up to jogging and then to running. It just was a stack on stack that I was doing, and it had to take time, and believe me, patience is not one of my virtues at all. And I wasn't
Right.
seeing re yeah, I wasn't seeing results quick enough. I quit a few times, got back up and said, "You know what? You just have to pile drive through it and move." But there's a question in here after all this is we're in that society of instant gratification with social media. Don't get me wrong. Social media is great, tech's great, but it's a dual-edged sword or a knife, however you want to say it. People think that everything on social media is true. Instant gratification. I'm going to put a video up, I'm going to go viral, going to be a millionaire. Doesn't work that way. Life is
Right.
all about grinding out and doing the work. How do we take that mindset and apply it to change?
Yeah. So very key word there is work. And I had said before that usually the best things that you can attain or achieve are usually they come with a little bit of sweat, equity, right? It's the work. And so if you can again, so it's like it's a continuum. You've got to find the right place to start, right? You're mentioning the stacking of the wins.
Yeah.
And when you do gain that positive momentum, those wins will grow exponentially. But so how do you spark the flame to begin the winning cycle and attain that exponential growth and on the positive side? So this again, it's embracing those ideal challenges. And very key element to that is being realistic with yourself. Where are you at? And so you had mentioned people like thinking about going on social media. Oh, I'll post on social media. I'll become a millionaire.
Yep.
Has that happened? Yes, there are people, maybe not that instantaneous, but it is a way to get there, right? So then, but you would want to know certain things like does this make sense for myself? I don't have a Facebook or I don't even know how to get on a camera or like where are you really starting? And so if you want to start that process and if you want to right get to this winning, this positive exponential growth and winning that, like you're mentioning, like it started with a good amount of discipline, like at least a commit to I'm going to get up and I'm going to start losing weight. And there's a ton of various ways that you can get there to losing weight. You've got a goal to 180. You've already lost 20 pounds. It's been a few months. And so you're moving in the right direction. You've seen some progress now, but you didn't at first. So
No.
that's the scary part for a lot of
Yep.
people. They're like, oh shit, nothing's happened, bailing. In order to avoid that, back to the excitement. If you can lean into something that say it will get you to your goal of losing weight, but you also have fun playing tennis. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm moving, but I'm also having a good time and I'm playing with my friend. And so there's these other elements to it while you're simultaneously achieving that weight loss goal. Now back to the social media thing and the instant gratification or personally, here I am, I'm on a platform, I'm talking to you on a podcast.
Mhm.
I originally tried to record myself in a video talking about my book and I was going to put it on YouTube. I tried to record my I tried to record myself and I had my wife watch me. I was stumbling on my words. I'm recording again. I'm embarrassed at how I looked and oh man. And I'm just like recording and deleting, recording and deleting. And I'm like, oh my, and I just like, fuck, man. Now, so what did I find that I could achieve that? And so it's podcasting. I can
Yep.
have a conversation with you. I'm looking at you. My mind isn't on me and how goofy I look or saying the wrong thing. I'm just answering your question. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, here's a way to get my message out, talk about my mission, my book, and my things. And, I can get on social media with this stuff, but I don't have to sit awkwardly in front of a camera and try to read a script. Right. So figured out a way to move towards that goal I had where I don't hate it and I can get excited about it. So I believe that exists for everyone. There's always something that you can get excited about that will also kind of move you towards the direction of your desired goal. So I think that's really the trick, paying attention to the excitement in the hard times, the challenging times.
But the thing that you did in that, you did the work. You found a way to get
That's true.
yourself around it. And I'm not saying this is a general thing, but I'm just putting it out there. A lot of people don't wanna find that way through the problem to get there. That's the challenge. They're looking for that instant hit of dopamine to
Right.
make it work for them instead of trying to find a way to make it lasting. And in some of the
Right.
things that I did, for me, I started doing a game. How many days in a row could I go out and exercise? And then once I hit 5 days, I hit 7 days, I gave myself a little bit of a reward. I went out and I did something, or maybe I love In-N-Out Burger. I'm out here in the West Coast. I just treat myself to In-N-Out Burger. So
Right.
I did something to reward myself to do those type of things, but it was getting through the pain to figure out, okay, this can be done. I can make it fun, but I have to find a way, like you said, but then I don't give up, and once I didn't see those results, believe me, there was plenty of times I got knocked down on my knees and I had to get back up, but we seem to have lost that ability for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me making a blanket statement, but what are your thoughts on that?
Like it's so I was a personal trainer for a while. I trained some people and they would come to me with these goals. And I hate to say it, but not everybody gets the thing done. And not everybody achieves what they want. It's just reality. It's just what it is. And people say they want this lifestyle or they like, oh, this would be great. This amount of income in a year would be great. Yeah, sure. Of course it would be great, but it will remain just that phrase or just a thought or a daydream or a real dream, whatever you want to call it, if the work never actually gets done. And so
Yep.
I think a very realistic and maybe a cold answer to your question is it's not everybody's cut out for it. It's just
I
it's
agree.
it's just the truth, man. And this man, it's not going to be a very popular thing to say, but I would be paid as a personal trainer and I would have people, and I believe me when I say this, I cared, really wanted these people to experience reaching their goals. But there were people that I was like, man, we're just so far off the mark here. I can only do so much. Like I'm playing out my role that you had hired me for, but I can only do so much. I'm not able to fix your inner character and your aversion for a little hard work. And if you are just against it, if you are just against, hey, this is a true statement. There are lazy people in the world. It's a
Yeah.
reality. And so now what that does is, in a little bit of a positive, that seems a little bit bleak, is it creates a hierarchy. That's why the best are the best, right? That's why the reward is good because not everybody gets it. And maybe this, what do they call it? Like a trophy society where everybody gets a trophy
We've
that
yeah, we've become a trophy society, I agree.
it's not, it's maybe it's good when you're 3 or 4 years old. Maybe it's, I don't think it's good at all, but I
No.
could see maybe I'm trying to give them some kind of clout, but you tarnish the hierarchy that we value when we get to the top of it, right? And the
Mhm.
top is reserved for the people that have done the work. It's
Yeah.
just a fact. So if you don't do the work, here's all right, going back to the sobriety and recovery. I was in a men's program and I had seen a lot of guys in there. They didn't want it. They didn't want it. They didn't, I could see it. They didn't want to listen. They didn't want to participate. They didn't want, it was very clear. It was very clear. And what they didn't desire the goal enough to get out of their horrible circumstances that they had put themselves in. And some of the worst case scenarios, I saw them die. Seeing people die as a result of them not wanting to do the work and get better. And that's sad. I wish it weren't
Yeah.
true, but it can be a very real reality. It can rain down as far as a realistic outcome for somebody that has a drug addiction and alcohol problem and they don't want to do the work. It's possible that they end themselves. It is a very real, but much like anything else, if you don't commit to the work, very little will happen. And so then you might get bitter. And that's also a very sad scenario. Success leaves clues, right? So people like myself, people like yourself, it's I'm more than willing to share the how, at least how I did it. It might give you a clue on how you can do it. But if you make the decision at the end of the day that it's not important enough to you, or you can't handle the work, or it's not worth the work, then hey, that's an inner battle that I may not be able to. Nobody really has a solution for. That's an intrinsic scenario.
For sure. It's all boiled down to you gotta do the work, and you keep on saying that, and that's a sad thing. That's why we have, the Olympics are coming. We have Olympians. Not everybody could be an Olympian. I'll never be Olympian. I know that. I could put all the hard work in, it ain't gonna happen. I'm just it's not there for me. Just like everybody can't be, an entrepreneur. It's just not you've gotta be able to grind that out. I failed at it twice before I got it to
Right.
stick the 3rd time, but I had it in me because I wanted to do it. So that was one of the things, but I had to fail twice pretty badly to make it happen. But you're right. We all have to put our work into the things that we can control, but also things that we can get better at. But we're not gonna be these elite, at least me, I'm not gonna be an elite athlete. I know that. So I know I can go run. Am I gonna try to run a half marathon? Potentially. I don't like running, but I do enjoy it because it clears my head. Do I wanna run 12 or 15 miles? Not at this moment. 2
Not it.
fi 2 to 5 miles is pretty strong for me, and it gets me pumped up. Everything's rocking and rolling. So, I'm pretty happy with that right now. So, do I wanna push myself some more? Potentially, I would wanna do something on a bike before I go even further on running. So, that's something I'm looking at. Mix things up,
Yeah.
maybe ride every so often, then run. I don't know. It's just different things like that. But I don't mean to digress, but I wanna get to it before we end everything up. Can we talk a little bit about your book and share some topics and what you talk about in the book and so forth?
You know what? The top of mind is that what you mentioned about failure. There's towards the end of my book, I get into our relationship with failure and how valuable it is. Failure is not ever a person; it's just like a circumstance. And in fact, you can take every failure you've ever had, pull out one lesson. Now you don't have a loss; you have a lesson. You don't have a failure; you have just a step towards the win. You know what I mean? So there's all different ways to frame it. And I get into that in the book. My book is it's part memoir and part strategies that I had used and pulled from people a lot smarter than myself in order to make the change. Like I committed to change and I made it happen. Started gaining traction in my sobriety. And I believe wholeheartedly, there's a very strong belief of mine is that when we solve real hard problems in life as humans, it's our responsibility to reach back to the people that were in the same circumstances that we were in, right? If you're climbing a ladder and you're like, "Damn, I'm getting up this ladder." I feel like it's our due diligence to look back, somebody maybe a couple rungs lower and say, hey man, check it out. This step's a little loose, or give me your hand, or help out, right? So that's this book is really my effort at that. My book and it's my effort to help people that are in tough circumstances that I'm familiar with, right? Is my solution their solution? Maybe, but I think it can help. But it's a series of stories of my rock bottom moments, and then coupled with the strategies and tactics to use to maybe dig yourself out. And then since I've written the book, I've been developing a program. It's called Sober to Super, and so I'm still in the midst of developing it, but I plan on really getting to help people out there that have gained traction in sobriety, and they want to know what the hell to do next. Because I feel like it wasn't enough for me to just be sober. I was like, okay, I've got a little breathing room now. Maybe I should get a better job. Maybe I should pursue this or that. And so, anyways, I'm developing a program called Sober to Super, and I'm working on that, like the second phase to the book. But yeah, man, that's what I got going on these days.
Are you doing any type of coaching at all?
Not officially, not yet. Once I develop that program and I go live with the program, I'll probably attach on the end of it time with myself to either intensify the results of the program or just still again do my best to help out. And of course, I can't be everywhere at once. The idea is that the program is something that can be done on their own, and then they need extra help. I'm going to be on board with that as well.
Cool. Is your book on Amazon? Can it be found everywhere?
Amazon's the best place, right? Like I got a bunch at my house, but you call Amazon, they'll get it to you much quicker, right? But yeah, you could either look up me, the author, Ryan Penley, or the title is Man Up, Sober Up. I think it's right. I'm pointing to the wrong side. This guy.
Yep.
Never go. Never.
There you go. You got it.
Right. So yeah, if you go on Amazon, you look up Man Up, Sober Up. I did reach the top of the list for the alcoholism genre for a short period of time. But yeah, it's doing well on there. So I'm selling some copies and getting that word out. And I'd love for anybody that's interested to pick up their own copy. It'd be fantastic.
I will put a link in the show notes, so make sure that people can get to it. So, sir, thank you very much for coming on. Great conversation. Love what you're doing, but also the adversity that you've overcome to actually show people you can put the time and effort, work into change and actually embrace it.
I do
So
appreciate the time, Ryan. It's been awesome, man.